thoughts of her. So this past week's Mandalorian episode 7 of season 3 of The Spies was straight up fire. This episode action answered a lot of questions asked and with Moff Gideon stuff, and everything kind of pretty much came to a head and everything. I'm not gonna do a review. Haven't seen. Probably gonna get more of a review, pace by pace of what happened with breakdown. But like I've always said, I'm a brand new Star Wars fan. The past couple years, learning as I go. Always some stuff that I probably missed or whatever. So I did a breakdown. Last week episode wasn't that good. That's the one with Lizzo and Jack Black. I thought it was kind of fluff in it, but it did, had some key points. Got the dark saber back and the fleet and that, but this episode, a lot of stuff came together. Curious to see where it's going, and there's some things I probably missed because I'm rambling on. Let's check out this breakdown from Mr. Eric Ross and New Rock Stars. Make sure you go to their channel and subscribe. Let's see what Easter eggs and stuff that we missed. Well, I missed.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of The Mandalorian, Chapter 23, Season 3, Episode 7, The Spies. From
Probably
Council cameos
top 3
to clues,
best
the
episode of the
RR
series.
Might be up to something. I'm going to break
I
down
agree.
this episode shot by shot for all the
I
details
agree.
you might have missed. And subscribe
think
to my
she's a
new
spy.
channel, The Deep Dive. Okay, we open on the rainy lower levels of Coruscant.
Kind of remind me of
particularly more Blade Runner-y than
yeah,
usual.
Blade
especially
Runner.
with Elia Kane and her raised trench coat collar, particularly cruel since her victim, Dr. Pershing, adopted this look back in Chapter 19. Now, this is a part of Coruscant that we would have explored in the 1313 game, and the constantly being developed Star Wars Underworld from Ronald D. Moore, creator of Battlestar Galactica, would have been such a good show. And the Orbesh on all the neon signs translate to things, most of them misspelled words. Like vertical in pink is Cybenetiox. I thought it said cybernetics, which would make sense, but no, that fifth letter is not an R, it's an N, and that is definitely an O after the I. Cybenetiox isn't anything in Star Wars, and kind of like that Orbesh meta message to us YouTubers last episode that added a P to the word however, sometimes they just don't spell it right. So why do I even bother? Well, it's because I'm a know-it-all, and this is the way. So let's keep going.
The way.
Vertical in blue, further back, either food or edu, depending on which way you go. Toward the bottom in white, the word play. On the left, vertical in blue, something ENTS. Then over on the right, horizontal in yellow, AHKQ. Beneath that, vertical in blue, Bronwyn, I assume one of the VFX artist's daughters or girlfriends. And beneath those, text angled on a corner in white, GRQLUS.
All right, somebody's
across
initials.
that alley, vertical in green, AOJRN. Across the alley, vertical in red again, Cybenetiox, not cybernetics. And then in front of
can't
that,
spell.
horizontal in pink, FDG.
Lost in translation,
As
I
in
should say.
dumbass waste of time this was, as Elia Kane rounds the corner across the street. In red circles, the word alley, and then blue, vertical, calf, C-A-F. Actual words. Calf is the in-universe name for coffee in Star Wars. And then triangles light up with look, then at, then me. Look at me, I am changing. An Imperial probe droid with an evil red eye, like the droids who went bad on Plaisir last episode, or like Hal in 2001 Space Odyssey, finds Kane and scans her face with one of those awesome blue scanners like Carson Tava's droid had at the end of Chapter 21, like the probes at the beginning of James Cameron's Aliens look so cool.
That's pretty cool,
Moff Gideon's hollow projection beams out in open air.
He's back.
He's an escaped war criminal, but I guess this is safer for Elia Kane than her amnesty housing unit. And we learn that the pirate nation of Gorian Shard was aligned with Moff Gideon's pro-imperial conspiracy, and that Gideon grumbles upon hearing that the Night Owls of Axe Woves and the Children of the Watch have combined forces under the leadership of Bo-Katan Kryze. This episode is titled The Spies, plural. And to be a spy, you have to be someone with a duplicitous agenda. So after Elia Kane, who was the other spy of this
The armor.
episode?
I'm telling you, the armor.
For the armorer, and I will make it. But since Axe Woves wasn't present for Gideon's arrest in Chapter 16,
Could be him, yeah.
and conveniently ended up with Gideon's light cruiser, I think he might be the
And
other
he was the
spy,
one that
someone
made the
loyal to
escape
Gideon,
too, so
long as
I-
Gideon could
he's my
pay
second
up.
best,
That
too.
could be why Gideon here asks.
He's the one that flew through the hole in the tunnel.
Mandalorians,
and he denies that any Mandalorian would cooperate with each other. He's gonna make a call to his buddy Axe, and Axe is gonna be like, "What? Mando made a really great speech about the Darksaber, and all these idiots who I hang out with read Harry Potter and think the Elder Wand logic made sense." So Gideon walks through his base with red shield walls opening up like that corridor on Naboo and Phantom Menace when they're fighting Darth Maul.
That's one of my favorite Star Wars scenes.
Like, you know, the opening sequence of Get Smart, because rooms open up between each of these red shield walls, but only Gideon has access to the furthest inner room. Each gate is flanked by stormtroopers with a new generation of armor, Beskar, we later learn, shaped to look like the First Order stormtrooper design. He passes tanks containing obscure figures.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to see.
Further attempts at Snoke strandcasts, like on the Navarro base in Chapter 12, like those folks who keep yeasts in jars all over their homes. This is just something Gideon does in his spare time to try to be the first with a winner. Now, since this base is on Mandalore, these guys could be stewing in living waters taken from the springs where the Mythosaur was. Gideon's whole agenda is to take the best of all cultures, cloners, Jedi, Mandalorians, and to use all these things to feed the First Order. So why not throw in some Mando Dasani? We meet Captain Gilad Pellaeon, a hugely important figure from Star Wars legends, starting with Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire Thrawn novels, in which he is Thrawn's protege. And he looks exactly like this. Mustache, insignia.
That's something I didn't know.
Cap, that pompous pout. He's played by the perfectly cast Xander Berkeley, Gregory from The Walking Dead, and a ton of other roles. This is the first time we've seen Captain Pellaeon in live action after a brief vocal cameo in Rebels.
I am about to watch Clone Wars and Rebels very soon, because I want to learn all the stuff before Ahsoka comes out.
Thrawn briefly appeared in the Ahsoka trailer and is confirmed to be played by Lars Mikkelsen, the Thrawn voice actor from Rebels, and apparently showed his face in some bonus Ahsoka footage shown exclusively at Star Wars Celebration. Pellaeon urges the others to present themselves as unorganized remnant warlords, a bit of justification for how the First Order was able to rise under the New Republic's nose during this period. He also says, Grand Admiral Thrawn's return will herald in the re-emergence of our military and provide Commandant Hux enough time to deliver on Project Necromancer. So part of Pellaeon's strategy is to wait for Thrawn to return so the Imperial fleet will have a popular wartime leader that will rally more to their cause. Speaking of the importance of singular military leaders in real-world history to rally the base, kind of like George Washington and the Revolutionary Army and Robert E. Lee to the Confederate Army. Meanwhile, Commandant Hux is Brendel Hux, father to Armitage Hux, played here by Brian Gleason, brother to Armitage Hux actor Donald Gleason. They kept it in the family, and it's just perfect casting. The 2017 novel Phasma by Delilah S. Dawson explores the early years of the First Order and the role Brendel Hux and Armitage Hux played in recruiting child soldiers as First Order stormtroopers, as was the case for Finn and Janna from Rise of Skywalker. But now we learn that Brendel Hux also oversees Project Necromancer.
There's so much I don't know. I need to put everything together. I need to watch a breakdown video of the whole Star Wars timeline and the events
to resurrect Palpatine via cloning. So instead of somehow Palpatine returned, now we get Project Necromancer. But Brendel accuses Gideon of making this a bit extracurricular. Gideon has been conducting his own cloning research with Dr. Pershing on Navarro, something that he hasn't CC'd Hux on, suggesting that Gideon hoped to go over Brendel's
that was season 1, right?
Warlord with the first cocktail of high M count blood to resurrect Palpatine. Also, interesting detail, notice Hux and Pellaeon are the only two of these warlords to wear classic Imperial uniforms. The others don't have the benefit of strong navies with thick holes to command from. These others have to get by on scraps and sometimes have to hide in plain sight. Gideon casts doubt on Thrawn's return, talking about him as if he was a ghost that they all need to move on from, which will either bite Gideon in the ass, or maybe it's a sign that Thrawn's arc on Ahsoka might have nothing to do with the First Order, which is kind of what I'm hoping for, honestly. Make the guy a rogue. Sorry, Pellaeon. I just don't think that guy cares that much.
He's going to kill
Gideon has sent in a request for 3 Praetorian Guards, reinforcements for his TIE interceptors and bombers from Pellaeon. Now, the Praetorian Guards are the red-suited First Order warriors that stood by Snoke in The Last Jedi with all their melee weapons. In my opinion, the most badass fighters in the sequel trilogy. So excited to see more of these guys. And the name Praetorian Guards actually comes from ancient Rome. Why does Gideon want these? Well, he did lose a hand-to-hand duel with Din Djarin. He knows he can't keep up in any kind of melee situation. So it's a smart request. Gideon says,
I am increasingly confident that they are preparing to retake their home world of Mandalore.
And yeah, again, I don't think we realized it when we're first watching this episode, but right now, Gideon is currently on Mandalore. I'm pretty sure this facility with its rock walls is close to that Great Forge location that we end the episode on. So the others don't want Gideon's Beskar mining operation disrupted. They all need it. Now remember, in past episodes, visitors to Mandalore had no communication from the surface. We thought it was just from the weather patterns, but it might actually been part of a signal jamming process.
Oh yeah, think about that.
To keep their operation hidden. Presumably, Gideon set this up after the purge, after all the Mandalorians were gone from the planet, using Imperial propaganda that this planet was cursed and radioactive to keep people away from it. Okay, on to Navarro. The locals are cleaning up after that pirate attack in chapter 21. I don't see the wreckage
always
of
cleaning up
Corsair anywhere back there, but you know, VFX is expensive. They all look up to see, what is it? It's an Imperial light cruiser, but actually no, this is Moff Gideon's old ship now with its underbelly repainted.
But that was dope.
Mythosar skull by
cool ass shots too.
The time it must have taken to paint that. Now, while Grief Karga makes it seem like this is one of the few times a massive ship overhead isn't meant to evoke fear, again, we are still waiting to find out Axe Wove's true loyalties here. So I think that
he might be a spy.
Fear is intentional here. As Bo-Katan deboards, we first see her dark saber now hanging from her hip, something that you know the members of the Watch must notice immediately. The armorer bangs her hammer on her tongs, recreating that music she talked about. Remember hearing from the Great Forge. Behind her, that crate is labeled in the Mandoa language. On the side, that's the numbers 1024, and then on the front, a Mythosar and the word ammo. Grief Karga gives Mando with what looks like some Coruscant scotch and a rebooted IG-11, who enters at the side at first to reveal it's actually being piloted by an Anzellan droid smith. Pretty unsettling to see this guy's exposed ass and his calves as he climbs out. But Grogu looks up from that bowl of candy that he was munching on in chapter 17, and he coos when he sees his old squeeze.
Bad baby. No.
Bad baby, no squeezy. Is that what he said?
Grogu being warned by
I know the bad baby part.
Like Bjorn, a callback to an IG-11 saved Grogu and wore him that way at the end of season 1. But now Grogu operates IG-12 like a mech suit.
No.
Control over
Yes.
He can finally keep up and stop fights, I guess. But few things bring me more joy than the idea of Grogu punching yes and no.
Yeah, that was funny.
Like a pet soundboard to ask for food. But in Grogu's case, his opportunity to say yes, and yes, just to show how happy he is feeling on every step.
That was pretty funny and cute. Yes.
Yes.
Oh God.
So Grogu just starts pigging out on food from a vendor, and he grabs a Meliroon fruit that he squeezes all over this Tarsant merchant. No, squeezy. At the feast, they roast on a spit what looks like either an Eope or a Kadu. I thought it was one of those winged reptilian creatures, but I don't see any wings here. The two sides sit apart from each other. The peacetime sigil of House Vizsla, its red-leafed branch on a white banner, hangs over where they sit. But Bo-Katan says it's time for all of them to retake Mandalore, saying dormant
I like how she's stepping up and like
bombings, including Mythosar and
being a leader.
Big boy we meet this episode. She proposes that they go to Mandalore while she leads a scouting party, asking for volunteers, and about a dozen of them volunteer as tribute, including the armorer.
I will go as well.
I will go as well.
Yeah, there's a shady sound effect that plays as the armorer steps up. Not sure if it's meant to convey Bo-Katan's respect for her or for us to cast doubt on the armorer's motives. As they all look down at the ruins
I have my two top suspects in the spy.
It's worse than he thought, and the guy next to him says,
I was here when it happened.
Yikes, say more, friend. As the camera pushes into Din Djarin, all those blue helmets sitting in a row shake their heads in astonishment. Bo-Katan orders to search for the forge.
We start scouting in that direction. Form up.
She looks so happy. I don't think we've ever seen her smile this much.
I know.
The armor heel turns behind her. Obviously impossible to tell her expression, but she's definitely more reserved and ponderous than Bo-Katan is. The sky they march under has these clouds that rapidly zip toward them, kind of like a terrestrial hyperspace. They run into 3 more Mandalorians on a land skiff, kind of like Mad Max pirates, a roving gang of survivors who refuse to leave the planet after the purge. They include actor Charles Parnell from Top Gun Maverick, who played Warlock, and Charles Baker, he played Skinny Pete on Breaking Bad. Over dinner, Bo-Katan confesses that she did surrender to Moff Gideon, and there's a moment where Casca Reeves leans in to try to stop Bo-Katan, but Bo-Katan waves her off, showing us that this is the truth that these women knew and shared with each other, and presumably Axe Woves did as well, which could be another reason why Woves might have had a reason to betray her by playing ball with Gideon. Like from Axe Woves'
makes
point of view,
sense.
these two leaders are equally bad, but at least Gideon pays better. We also get some clarity on
the more he says it, and he's all about money now, so he could be the spy. And the fact that he left in that tunnel.
Gideon, then he betrayed her by purging the planet anyway. And so in that Book of Boba Fett flashback, that's a point where we saw the droids going through there with the Beskar helmets in the ashes. So the armorer tells Warlock and Skinny Pete,
We were hidden on the moon of Concordia.
Are you Death Watch?
Death Watch exists no longer.
and behind her, I'm pretty sure that is the moon of Concordia shining in the sky. Remember, earlier in the dropship, at least one of them still had the Death Watch sigil of the Shriek Hawk on their shoulders. But we definitely can read into the armor saying the Death Watch exists no longer.
I'm not sure what the Death Watch
horns on her
was.
helmet. In Clone Wars, the members of the Death Watch that served Maul had horns on their helmets to pay respect to him. And in this episode, Moff Gideon's new Beskar armor has horns on the helmet. Could part of the Death Watch
Oh.
ideology have lived on in the armorer? I don't know. I just hope she's not Kira or something. So Din tells Bo-Katan about the
Interesting.
Darksaber, saying, I only know of this weapon what you taught me. To be honest, it means nothing to me or my people, nor does station or bloodline. What means more to me is honor and loyalty and character. It's interesting how in this episode, the Darksaber is not used in any kind of duel or conflict, only as a means for the Mandalorians to retreat and escape. Survival of one's people is the highest honor. The pirates take him to the forge as the armorer takes the wounded survivors in the gauntlet back up to the ship. From here forward, the armorer has sidelined herself from the action, and the episode keeps cutting back to her as if something might happen, maybe a red herring, or maybe a reminder the armorer conveniently evaded Gideon's trap while the others stepped right in it. During a chess-like game, Axe Woves and Paz Vizsla end up in a fight with vibro blades, which really get close looks here. One framed right in front of Axe's face. The fight rages on, but Grogu in the IG-12 suit stops them.
That's pretty funny.
No. Din says he didn't learn that from me, referring to Grogu's Zen training under Luke Skywalker in the Book of Boba Fett Chapter 6. Remember all that character development that happened in another person's show? A giant creature bursting around. At first we thought a mythosaur, but no, it's just some other kaiju who might have also been awakened by the bombings. So Mandalorians, are you sure you want to settle down here? This place kind of sucks. The survivor urges them to go further into the caves, meaning this creature wrecked their ship right by the exact place they needed to go.
How convenient.
We see
How
the ruins
convenient.
of the Great Forge, looking a lot like the mines in Fellowship of the Ring, a once great civilization wrecked by war, and
Never
there are
seen Lord of the
piercing
Rings.
beams of light cutting through the darkness, just as there were in Moria. That's how they lit their way through that darkness. Then Beskar armored Imperial stormtroopers swoop in, leading to this shootout. Two of the pirates get kicked off a ledge. One stormtrooper gets lasted around the neck and flown away via jetpack. Din Djarin clotheslines one of them in the stomach and shoots him
out.
right
I like
between his
that.
helmet
That's some
and
John
shoulder
Wick
blade
stuff
where
right
his
there.
neck would be exposed. Bo-Katan shoots in the same spot on another one. Because they are Mandalorian, they
know the
where
weak
exactly
points.
where the
Yeah.
gaps in the armor are. So
Yeah.
they get the imps on the run, but one must wonder if this retreat was intentional as part of this overall trap. Because in the heat of the battle, our Mandos don't even realize that they've transitioned from cave ruins to a well-swept Imperial corridor.
Yeah.
It's a haunting realization that they realize too late when
they got
see
tunnel
the
vision.
TIE
No
interceptors
pun intended.
hanging like freaking bats here on their home planet that they've been longing to reclaim. They realize a massive evil force has already set up shop, and Moff Gideon descends in Dark Trooper armor. He declares his goal to take the best of Mandalorians, the cloners, and the Jedi to serve the next generation, declaring their time is done, basically saying he's going to appropriate all these things to feed the First Order. He takes Din Djarin to a debriefing room. You know what that means. Hopefully Borgullet! But Bo-Katan refuses to surrender the Darksaber as Paz Vizsla holds him all.
Oh, I think
with
we're
his
gonna do the
heavy
mind thing on
blaster.
him.
It
Oh, no.
overheats, so he takes out the rest by hand. Tate Fletcher just kicking ass and taking names.
Man,
But those three
that was
Praetorian
sad death,
guards
man.
arrive, and Paz is no match. Using their melee weapons, purple
He held his
compared to
own.
the red glowing ones from the Last Jedi, they stab him in the gaps of the armor, under the breastplate in the ribcage, in the leg, and in the shoulder through the neck. It's a tragic end. And so we're left with the question, who was that second spy? I get the suspicion toward the armor. We talked about that in WikiLeaks. I just don't know what she would have to gain from working with Gideon, or when she would have had time to cast all that Beskar armor. Axe Woves was certainly motivated, and it was hard to clock exactly where he was during this final ambush. We should also look at those pirates. They did
Oh, he flew
mysteriously
off
survive
in the
on
hole.
Mandalore and led everyone directly into this trap. I want to know from you, which Mandalorian do you think has Paz Vizsla's blood on their hands? Whoever it was, there is reason we saw the mythosaur at the beginning of the season. Bo-Katan, I believe, is destined to use this ancient creature to bring a brutal end to Moff Gideon's attempt to fill the power void.
It's gonna come back.
Warlords, while I assume Thrawn will finally return in a post-credit scene. The only reason I can imagine for Giancarlo Esposito to return this season is to have an epic end where he gets gobbled down or stomped by a mythosaur. Hey, a reminder
probably
to
get eat.
subscribe to our new channel, The Deep Dive, and you can support us by grabbing some merch at nerdriot.shop. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA.
Oh, another good breakdown. From my thoughts on the spy is number one suspect right now is the armorer. Number two is Axe. Yeah. Those are my two, number one and two. One, obviously, how convenient armorer takes off to wounded people. If I remember correctly, then Axe will fly through the gap, get back out to go get help, or whatever. So how convenient of that. So those are my two suspects. Let me know down below. Was there something that you didn't know about in this? Who do you think is the spy? Comment down below. Can't wait to next week's episode. It wraps everything up for us. We get a good answer to all the questions we have. And I will be watching Clone Wars and Rebels. My Star Wars IQ knowledge up more before it comes out. So yeah. Thanks for watching. See you guys on the next one.